So I've got a new book out. Um, I don't know how to get anyone to read it, but instead I don't want to go too deep into it because it's a very long book and there's no way to summarize it. It progresses, like ideas come and go. Instead, I wanted to just like put like small pieces of it. Understand like what this is about. I want to talk about the many worlds interpretation for quantum field theory. Um, you may know that there's this idea that to solve like what we see in experiments, the idea is that the way to solve it is to assume that there's an infinite amount of universes and reality forks whenever we make a decision or seem to make a decision. Reality forks to the version where we make that decision and not make the decision, or make the inverse, or make any other decision. And so that's like a way to solve it, like to say there's an infinite amount of universes that we pass through, and like every decision you also make the other decision, and blah blah blah. That solves a problem in physics. It's not like people don't make it this up just to write science fiction movies or books. There's a problem. There's like empirical findings, like the double slit experiment specifically, but any other case of superposition of something being in two states and at the same time calls for something like this, because otherwise it doesn't make any sense. You have something that is in two conditions at the same time, and then in reality you don't see that those two conditions. What's going on? Where did that other condition go? So they assume that the reality forks. Now, in this book, I realized that this is not just weird, but it's also wrong. But it's wrong because of something that we are systematically not addressing, which is experience. What I mean by that. So, if reality forks, let's say, there's this experiment called the double slit experiment. If I measure the double slit experiment is like a board with two slits, and you fire a particle, and if you measure for which slit the particle passes, then you can see on behind the board there's like dots, like as if the particle hit the wall like a dot. If you don't measure for which slit, then that particle no longer behaves like a billiard ball, instead it behaves like a wave, and it passes through both slots. This is the wave particle duality. But the problem with that is not that. The problem with that is that the measurement, the fact that I make a measurement that changes something physical. And so the many worlds interpretation would solve it by saying, like, if you made a measurement, you're going through the world where you made that measurement, and if you don't, you go to a different world where you, but you don't have this need to explain how your experience changed reality, because reality existed in all the configurations, and the fact you chose to be in this one or that one doesn't matter. But the problem with that is that it forgets about how experience works. And the way experience works is that you don't just pop into a condition. Like, I don't fork into choosing to measure or not measure. I don't fork into choosing to eat ice cream or not eat ice cream. I have intentionality. I feel the buildup of something happening, and then I eventually make the decision to do it. So I don't really have a choice. If my experience of making a choice is indicative, my intentionality is indicative of anything, then I have to have made that choice before I made it, right? If I was going to eat that ice cream, then I felt that before I actually, let's say, took out my wallet and bought the ice cream, right? So, however, if I can fork, it means that I don't have that. I don't get to make that decision. I can fork. Like I can now, a version of me can just as well be the version that didn't have the intention of buying that ice cream, of making that measurement. So what that means is that for the many worlds interpretation to solve anything, has to be the case that experience doesn't, the intentionality doesn't mean anything. And you may know something about the question about the hard problem of consciousness, like what is exactly the role of consciousness, because all of our decisions are driven by brain processes that don't need conscious experience for anything, right? So you say, okay, then you say consciousness comes along for the ride. It doesn't really decide anything, but it experiences the decision. But this is saying no, you don't even experience the decision. See, instead of experiencing the decision, what you do is just, let's say I'm planning to raise my hand, I'm going to raise it, and instead I do like this, because there is no connection between my intention and the choice I'm going to end up making, because for that intention to matter, the many worlds interpretation cannot solve anything. So what I'm saying is I can prove, there is the possibility that everything that I do is, I really don't come along for the ride. I just review my memories and I never make a decision. My intentionality is indicative of nothing, and my intentions change all the time without me even tracking it. But that's not what I feel like. That's not what experience is like. So you can make that argument, but the question is, you have to ask yourself, is that really how you experience life? Is that in any way related with what you're trying to explain? You're trying to explain reality. What you're talking about, a reality we don't even get to come along for the ride, and when your intentions don't change anything about your decisions. That's not the reality you know. That's a made-up story. That's just a small part of the book, like just a paragraph or two.